Welcome to my channel. I'm Leslie Hooper,
And I'm Steph Miramontes.
and today we're going to be reacting to a video titled Why Japanese Are So Thin According to Science. Now, I will tell you, I myself have done quite a bit of research into habits and behaviors, and Steph, you will recognize a lot of these because we also implement these in the Unstuffed program. To me, it makes a lot of sense. If you are trying to help people learn how to think and act like naturally thin, or people who have never dieted in their lives, it makes a lot of sense to look to their habits. What are they doing differently over in Japan, the healthiest country in the world, versus us here in the States? Before we get started, I should mention that there's a total of 10 behaviors, 10 habits. I just don't want this to turn into a mega video. So we're going to break it down 6 through 10 today, and then we'll do the following episode tomorrow, 1 through 5. All right.
Why Japanese people are so thin, according to science. When it comes to health tips, who better to turn to than the country with the longest life expectancy and one of the lowest obesity rates on the planet? While the rest of the world is seeing anywhere from 15 to over 30% of its population severely overweight, Japan has managed to keep that number at just 3.6%. Counting down from number 10, diet. The secret to Japan's success begins with their diet, which is pretty carb-heavy and low in saturated fats. Their main dishes of choice include vegetables, grains, fish, and meat. Dairy products and fruits are consumed in moderation. They tend to stay away from foods with excessive amounts of salt and sugar, like burgers and soda. Many Japanese people follow dietary guidelines set by the government that place the focus on eating fresh foods and cooking at home. This actually gives the Japanese a genuine desire to eat real, healthy foods versus processed stuff like pizza, hot dogs, and frozen ready meals.
Okay, Steph. Number 10, diet. Basically, they eat more whole foods and fewer processed foods culturally.
Well, I totally thought it was going to be like, well, the Japanese eat carnivore because carbs are supposed to make you fat, right? So I thought it was the carnivore diet that we were supposed to be following these days.
The healthiest country on the planet seems to consume carbs pretty consistently, and actually, the bulk of their meals consist of carbs. So, that whole philosophy that you got to eat low carb to lose weight, maybe not so much.
No snacking. Yep, the country with the most vending machines per capita doesn't actually snack all that much. In Japan, they usually stick to 3 wholesome meals a day that don't leave them hungry or dealing with sudden cravings. Those who do snack keep it in small quantities and with a lot of moderation.
I do want to take a moment to talk about no snacking. This is something that we encourage our clients to do, not through a black and white lens, though. That's not something that I want anybody to take away from this particular video, is that there's no snacking ever. It's my philosophy. So if you're not hungry, there really isn't a reason to be eating. And so much of snacking is designed to prevent hunger or use as an emotional crutch to get through the day. What are your thoughts on no snacking in Japanese culture?
I think it's interesting that they said that they have the most vending machines per capita. I'm like, how come? I wonder if there's no snacking, like hardly any snacking. And I know that to be true as far as the no snacking. We've had a lot of clients who've gone on vacation to Japan, but here's what we don't have: clients from Japan. We have clients from all over the world. And I don't think we've had any or maybe one client from Japan, and probably they're expats, who have come into Japan and are living there from Germany or the US or something like that. So the no snacking thing, it fascinates me that they have all those vending machines in the first place. What I do know is that they don't snack walking up and down the streets. They are not mindless snackers like we are. They're not habitual snackers like we are. They would be mindful, intentional snackers. Like, I really want something, I'm going to get it and I'm going to sit and enjoy it, rather than I'm walking up and down the street while being on my cell phone and just getting it in because it was quote unquote there.
Yeah, it's quite different. In fact, it's considered to be rude or uncouth to be eating anywhere other than sitting down at a table, which is very different from what I experienced when I lived in New York City. Everybody's eating on the subway, walking on their phones, like you said. It's pretty chronic. So, just a vastly different culture.
Eating on the subway makes me feel like I want to gag. Like it's
Hey, I didn't say Americans were the cleanest people. See.
Just like the rest of the world, a lot of Japanese people have a hectic schedule that doesn't leave a lot of time or opportunity to prepare a home cooked meal. In that case, they can turn to their version of fast food, which is usually a lot healthier and resembles home-style cooking. Of course, they do have American fast food chains like McDonald's, Burger King, and Pizza Hut. But even with these options readily available, many still prefer a traditional meal at home as they've been raised to keep nutrition in mind. Kids in Japan are given nutrition classes in elementary school, which allows them to grow up as adults who make smarter food choices, since they're well aware of the detrimental effects fast food has on the body. That's why they tend to stay away from the super greasy stuff.
All right, Steph, your thoughts on that?
I just feel like that's like duh. I just don't think there's a
Okay.
whole lot to say.
My thought is related to the educational system and how there seems to be more emphasis in the Japan to prioritize healthy foods in small children at a young, malleable age. They just seem to value it quite a bit more. And I don't want to say that it's not in our education system because I definitely remember having those lessons in class. I'm just wondering what they're doing differently over there. I imagine it starts at the home first, but what are they doing in their school system that sets the standard? Any thoughts about the educational aspect of it?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It most likely is a combination of things. They're having the conversations in school, and their home life is set up to be successful, and their fast food life is actually set up to be in close proximity to home life. So it's not like we get this cheap, easy, convenient fast food that looks very different than a home cooked meal. It's similar, it's the same. So we're not really having that same conversation. And even fast food that does look the same as US fast food, I've learned in other countries is not the same as our fast food. The portions are not as massive. The ingredients are not quite the same. They have different laws and rules and things like that. I just think that they are set up for success on multiple fronts. And so it makes the education in the schools just reinforcement instead of having that be the thing that overcomes all of these lifestyle and environmental triggers that people have to deal with here.
In Japan, they have fast food in the same way that we have fast food. We have healthy options here in the US. It's not like they don't exist. Not nearly as abundant, but of course, I think that's because of the market. If the market said, hey, Americans want healthier whole food options, then that would be what is the precedent. And it's just interesting to me that Japanese people, although of course they have access to same fast food places we do here, still gravitate more towards whole food fast food. It's just got to be such a different mindset there.
And eating on time. Most Japanese people have very regulated meal times. They eat 3 filling meals a day, with breakfast usually happening between 8 and 9 a.m., lunch from 12 to 1 p.m., and dinner between 6 and 8 p.m. This routine drives the Japanese to prepare meals in advance and helps them make better food choices, given that they don't have to figure out what to eat on the spot. If you don't have a steady meal schedule or tend to eat whenever, chances are you'll make poorer food choices. You might find yourself hungry come mealtime with no food prepared, and you'll naturally head to a fast food joint to satisfy that hunger.
Americans don't really eat according to hunger. And 3 meals a day, kind of a foreign concept. People usually skip breakfast a lot of the time, or they're not eating the first meal till much later. But I'm interested for your thoughts, Steph.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people are running out the door. They're not prioritizing meeting their physical needs right out the gate, whether that's due to lifestyle, busyness, having kids, taking people to school and getting to work, or if it's just intermittent fasting doing its best work on so many of us. I just think that they don't prioritize sitting down and having a good meal. I also think people aren't thinking of food because I think they are used to overeating at night. So they're not really hungry in the morning. So they don't have that hunger signal that's prompting them to prioritize it in the first place until a little bit later in the day when, again, maybe hunger is starting to come up or emotional drivers are saying, you need a snack, you need to eat, you haven't eaten yet today. And what I've noticed a lot of is people snack and pick and graze all day long, feel like they haven't eaten at all that day, even though they've eaten all day. And then they finally get home to have a sit down meal. And then they overeat at night because they haven't had any of those three sit down, send the signal to my brain that I have nourished and fed myself in a satisfying amount. And I'm done with food now. There's no boundaries or borders around their eating times.
Yeah, I think that there's no ritual either. Americans aren't intentional with their first meal of the day. It's something that happens when we're doing other things. We're on our laptop at work, or it's not a priority. And so it creates an environment for overeating to happen later in the day. I also think culturally, Americans have their largest meal late into the day, whereas in Japan, it sounds like things are balanced. If we were to take a picture of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they're probably all about the same size as far as portions are concerned. And that's something that we often remind our clients is your stomach is the same size, whether it's 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. We don't need to be eating triple the amount of calories in the evening, but that's when you make time to sit down. But even that tends to be very distracted eating. So, of course, it lends itself to overeating.
Number 6. Exercise for kids. It's a lot more common for Japanese children to walk or cycle to school. Of course, other countries have a lot of reasons why it might not be efficient or safe for kids to hoof it to class. The distance from home to school might be too far. The city may not have safe zone for pedestrians to use, or there might be a concern over crime. Since Japan has one of the lowest crime rates in the world, it's safe to walk to most places. This means that Japanese children grow up in a culture where walking and exercise is natural to them. And as adults, they can instill this in their own kids.
Yeah, something I have read and heard quite a bit about over the years is how children in Japan, or young children, 4, 5, 6, just freely walk about the city, get on their transportation systems. There doesn't seem to be much fear or crime at all, where parents are concerned to let their kids run to the store and grab something for them.
Yeah, they have a lot of community-based structures, and I think it's pretty incredible that not only is it accessible for them to walk where they want to go or bike and move in that way, but also that they have created a community that facilitates the safety and everybody takes responsibility for everyone else's safety within that community. I think it's phenomenal. And I mean, we definitely have some things we could learn. That is for sure.
I mentioned that I lived in New York, but my apartment, I lived on the fourth floor. I had to climb the stairs anytime I wanted to go anywhere. Grocery shopping was only 2 blocks away, but I still had to carry my groceries back and up this 4 flights of stairs. And you can only carry so much. That means you're going to the grocery store multiple times a week, which means you're walking. And I walked to the gym. I walked everywhere. I went blocks and blocks to get to certain destinations because I didn't want to deal with the subway, or it was just a beautiful day outside. So I definitely enjoyed walking and moving in that way. Okay, that is it for us today. We discussed reasons 6 through 10 why the Japanese are so thin, according to science, and we'll be tackling the remaining 1 through 5 tomorrow. Hope y'all will join us. Have a great day.